Hey there, I want to read something to you. In a 2022 survey, the CDC found that nearly half of the 26,069 U.S. public health workers they surveyed experienced at least one symptom of a mental health condition during the COVID-19 pandemic, including anxiety, PTSD, and depression. Additionally, 1 in 12 experienced suicidal thoughts. We're going to start talking about workplace mental health and the importance of having the right things in the right place, especially for women over 40. And we're going to start that discussion in just a few moments. Hi there, I'm Marcyline Bailey, and I am your host of Stress Talk Live. This is where we share strategic stress management and solution focused self-care for women over 40 because we want you to live healthier lives. Today, we're going to dive deep into workplace mental health, especially for women over 40. Our topic today is entitled Stress Free Workplace: What Women Over 40 Need to Feel Empowered, Safe, and Stable. I'm going to give you a little bit of background as I get into the discussion, but as always, I will invite you to comment, drop your comments in the comments section, even if you're watching the replay or if you're listening to the podcast, which is found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and a host of other podcast platforms. So I don't want to belabor this. I will ask you, however, to like, follow, and subscribe to ML Bailey Consultants on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Also, if you want more information about ML Bailey Consultants, you can go to this link because it takes you to a gamut of things. It takes you to my website. It gives you the opportunity to sign up for our newsletter, and you'll just get to know some of the other things that we share as we are working with women who are over 40. As you can see, I'm a woman who's over 40, so this is a topic that is very dear to me. Much of what I share is based on my research, my study, as well as my personal experiences. I go through a lot of things too, you all, and I'm sharing with you how I was able to navigate through some of those struggles. Also, in my work as a private clinician, I have a private therapy practice. I also work with women who are also dealing with high stressed lives. And so I'm sharing what we have learned together with you. Right now, though, I want to get into our topic for today. I'm really excited about this topic because, as you know, for those of you who've been following me and watching the podcast, listening to the podcast, you know that I started with a strategy of sorts. At the beginning of the year, I started by talking about you, your personal lives, and helping you to develop um, a a goal or strategies for this year. We worked on your developing goals for your health, goals for self care, and I encouraged you to write goals that were measurable so you would know if you're actually making progress. If not, you'd know how to tweak them, right? And then we moved on to another topic that was very closely aligned. Now it is September. We are 9 months into the year, and I have not talked about stress in the workplace. Well, here we are. We're talking about stress in the workplace, and we're going to be talking about it the entire month. Tomorrow is Labor Day here in the US, and this is where we celebrate. It's a day where we celebrate the American worker. Yay! Well, the American worker has gone through quite a bit. It's been challenging for American workers. We actually work harder than anybody else in the entire world. We do. So when I hear people talk about productivity, I'm like, well, gee whiz, we work harder than any industrialized country in the world. We put in more hours. We work more days. We rarely take off work. And when we do, when we take off, many of us still do some form of work. We're either taking care of work business, we're talking about work business, we are doing something related to our work. And so we are hardworking people. We're very hardworking people. So, what does that mean? It means that we spend a great deal of time in the work setting. And because we spend a great deal of time in our work setting, over a third of our lives spent in the work setting. Think about it. Think about it. If we're awake 16 hours and 8 of those hours, 8 or more of those hours are spent in work, doing work, dealing with work, come on, come on. Come on. We are hardworking people. So, because of that, our workplaces need to be places that are not just where we go and spend 8 or more hours doing tasks. They need to be, the environment needs to be conducive so that it informs our health. It is a benefit to our health. It recognizes when we need additional support. And so I want to talk about that a little bit today. And we're going to talk about, I'm going to share share some information that I think is very key with you. So as I've said before, if I'm looking this way, that means that I'm looking at my notes. If I'm looking down, I'm looking at notes as well. So let's get into it. How about that? We're going to get into this discussion. Okay, so I wanted to share with you that in October of last year, 2022, the U.S. Surgeon General um, developed a framework, a conceptual framework for workplace mental health and well-being. And it's really kind of an exciting piece that uh, he developed along with his team because it outlines what we need as workers in order to feel that we are being supported in the workplace. Um, this document and this work recognized a number of the stressors that workers experience. And I'm going to go through some of these stressors. And if you can relate to them, drop it in, drop the one you relate to in the chat, in the comment section. Drop the one or the ones that you can relate to. Workers here in the United States have to deal with daily stress related to their work. And this document talks about this. The Surgeon General's framework for workplace mental health and well being talks about those stressors. Heavy workloads is one of the stressors that we face. If you are a social worker like me, and you work in social services, human services, social services, you know, or mental health even, you know that the caseload can be extreme and you're dealing with people's lives and their well-being, but you have a large number of cases to have to that you're having to navigate through, and you want to be respectful, you want to provide the dignity that these individuals require and deserve, but it's an enormous task because the numbers are so great and you're only one person. So workload, heavy workload is a enormous stressor that workers have to face. And that's just one example. You know, being a social worker who works in mental health or works in social services, that's just one example. And I'm sure that if you are a nurse in a nursing home where there are shortages of staff in nursing homes, and again, there are individuals who have great needs, those needs are almost overwhelming because you're just one person. But there are a number of occupations that have large caseloads, large workloads, and it is overwhelming. People who have to drive long ways or commute long distances to work, that's also a stressor. Imagine a woman who has to go, as we say, across town to get to her employment, and she has to take a bus. She has to take public transportation to get there. She may be at the mercy of the schedule for the transportation. She may be at the mercy of the weather, and we know that weather sometimes impacts transportation, public transportation. So that too can be stressful. Having schedules that are unpredictable. You know, we work much better in with predictability when we know what we have to do. I'm fortunate. Other people are fortunate in that I know what my schedule is on a day-to-day basis. I know that I go in at a certain time. I'm expected to be at work at a certain time, and I am also expected. I work until I get the job done, but I know that there is a cutoff time for me to go home. But some of us work in employment, in jobs where our schedule is unpredictable. We can be called at a moment's notice and we're expected to be present on that job at any time. There are American workers who work long hours. I talked about 8 hours a day, but some of us work 12 hours a day. Some of us are working 80 hours a week. It is unbelievable. Like I said, we work longer hours and more days than anybody else in any other industrialized country in the world. Some people work multiple jobs. I'm a person who has more than one job. I have, of course, my full-time job as a school social worker, but I also, as a lead school social worker for our school system, our district, but I'm also a business owner. I have a private practice. So I have multiple jobs. I have a friend who always has several jobs. She's a hard worker and she has several jobs always. So many of us work multiple jobs. Now, One might say, well, they're working those jobs because they choose to. Some people have to in order to make ends meet. Also, many people in this country experience low wages. They're working jobs that in which they earn very minimal wage, and it's difficult to make ends meet, and that can be stressful all on its own. So those are daily work stressors that people may experience, and the Surgeon General's framework recognizes that and recognizes that those stressors can affect a worker's mental health as well as their overall well being. Now, it's not just those stressors that workers need to or contend with. Also, we we workers contend with the work environment. And the Surgeon General's framework also discusses that. Part of that, a hostile environment, working in an environment in which you are not welcome or you feel unwelcomed, working in an environment in which you're being harassed, in which you're experiencing discrimination, working in dangerous conditions, and I mean physical conditions where the safety net is not there or it's ignored. You are you're put in harm's way as you're trying to make a living, as you're trying to carry out your job. So the work environment also has stressors that workers must contend with. And again, the Surgeon General's framework understands that and recognizes it. So after the Surgeon General came out with with the framework and five essentials that are necessary in the workplace, the American Psychological Association conducted a survey. It was done through the Harris Polling Group. And they conducted this survey. This survey was conducted in April of this year. So the Surgeon General's framework came out in October of last year, and the APA conducted a survey in April of this year, 2023. And they called it the Work in America Survey. And what they found is that it confirmed that for workers here in the United States, mental health support is very important. It's important for us to work in an environment, work for an employer that provides support for our emotional as well as our psychological well-being. Over 90% of those surveyed said that it was either very important or important to have that their emotional or psychological well being was valued, that mental health support was provided, that they felt respected at work, and that their organization, their company, their employer respected the boundaries between work and non work time, all of which, as you know, affects our mental health and our mental well being. It also, through this survey, found that 77% of the respondents said that they experienced work related stress. They experienced work related stress the month prior to the survey, which would have been March of this year. Also, 57% experienced negative impacts due to work related stress. And these were all indicators that could lead to burnout, such as emotional exhaustion. They lacked motivation to do their best. They isolated themselves. They started isolating themselves from others. They wanted to keep to themselves. They also felt an urge to quit their job. Now, these are 57% of the respondents. They felt an urge to quit their job. Their productivity was low. They were irritable and angry at their coworkers or the people that they served, whether it was a customer or a client. Also, they had a feeling that they were ineffective in their work. So, out of all of the respondents, 57% said they experienced negative impacts due to stress related work related stress. So, what does this really mean? And what does this mean for women? Women like you and me who work in the workplace, women over 40, what is it that we need in order to feel empowered, safe, and stable in our workplace? I mean, can we expect a totally stress free workplace? Probably not. But there are supports and there are things that we need. And the things that I'm sharing with you are from the Surgeon General's framework. And I'm going to go through them quickly right now because we don't really have the time to go through them in depth. But over this month, we're going to deal with those that deal with the framework, and we're going to go in depth. Okay. So, number one, we want to feel safe and secure. And what that means is we want to be free of the threat of injury, whether that's physical or non-physical. We don't want to be bullied. We don't want to be harassed. We don't want to experience discrimination in our workplace. This is very important for us. Additionally, we want to we want to feel like we belong. We want to have those social supports. What does that really mean? We need a network of people, a network and relationships of people who can and will help us, not just help us with work related things, but help us to remove our feeling of loneliness, our feeling of isolation. This is very and very important. We want this network to be available to us to help support us physically as well as psychologically when we need it. We also want to feel like we have control over when, where, how we do our work. Now, I know that sounds like it's pie in the sky, but wouldn't it really be great to have that type of autonomy, not having someone look over your shoulder all the time? Again, depending on the workspace that you're in, you may already have that. You may have the ability, that autonomy to do your work as you see fit. And that's a great thing, especially when it comes to your mental well being. There are many women and workers, male or female, who don't have that. Also, we want to be able to do our work in a way that's best for us. The next thing that we need is we want to feel respected and we want to feel valued. This is so key. This is very important. This is a very important thing. I hear from so many people who come to me, women especially who come to me, who tell me they don't feel valued, whether it's in their workplace or whether it's in their home. They want to feel like they matter, like what they do, how they do it, like their presence is important and valued. That is, I think, something that many workplaces miss. Valuing, showing their employees that they are valued, going beyond giving them an ice cream bar every once in a while, but actually demonstrating that they are valued. included in that is women need to have a sense of purpose and meaning for what they do. Having meaning in work is very important. We will work even if we're not paid what we should be paid, if we feel that our work is important, that there's purpose, that there's meaning, that we're making an impact, people will stay. And that we're valued, people will stay. People will stay. It's not always about the money. Money is important. Being paid what you're worth is important. However, we can also say that having meaning and purpose in what we do on a daily basis in our workspace is very important to us. And when we feel that way, it impacts our mental health and well being in a positive way. Last but not least, we also want to be able to acquire new knowledge as well as new skills in our workplace. We want to learn something new. We want to feel as if we're growing. We want to feel as if we are having an impact on the work of the organization. We want to feel as if we're making a contribution. And we don't want to feel as if we're stagnant, like we're in the same place, doing the same thing, the same way. We want to learn new and different things, things that can be of help to our clients, to our coworkers, as well as to ourselves. So, this framework that the Surgeon General has created is one that we are going to review and cover, and we're going to go even deeper. I just wanted to give you some background into what it was about, as well as give you some idea of what women over 40 need to feel empowered, safe, and stable, and how we can create a stress-free workplace in which we are effective, in which we are valued, and in which we are helping the organization meet its mission and its goals. Well, that's all for now. I'm excited about talking about stress in the workplace and how we can address it, especially for women over 40. Again, we're going to go through this framework bit by bit. We're going to break it down even more when we come back next time on Stress Talk Live. I'm Marcyline, and that's all for now. Take good care.